I just remember being really tired in the mission home because you show up and you have no idea what's going on, and you sit in orientation and you have interviews with your mission president, and I just remember being so tired because you wake up really early to go to the mission home and stuff, to fly from the MTC out there, and it was just all a blur to me. Like, I remember just trying to stay awake and pay attention to what was going on, and like I felt like I was in Utah too because Colorado looks kind of similar, and so I was like, why am I here again? Like, I was just here. It was cool to meet my mission president. I remember being really intimidated, but then he ended up being like the greatest, and it's okay. And meeting my trainer was intimidating too, just because she's really happy all the time, and I was like, whoa, how do you do that? I come from New York City, and I'm a little bit more like cynical and a bit laid back and that kind of thing, and she's from Hawaii, and so she was chatty and she was bubbly and like vibrant, and I was like, do I have to be like this all the time? And I was like, and it caught on. It was okay. But yeah, it was scary because, I mean, you're going into a complete unknown. Like, because I'd never experienced anything like that. You're just completely uprooted and you're put in a new spot, and then you just go and do it. It's like, ah. So I got to the mission home. We did that thing. Then we go to a transfer meeting, and at ours, at least, the missionaries who are going over the mountain, because we start in Denver, but then you have a 4 or so hour drive out to the other areas in the mission, and we have a transfer train that goes from the mission home to kind of the middle of the mountains to the lower mountains, and then back on transfer day. And so I remember they read our names, and then we just got on the transfer train, and I passed out in the car, and I was so exhausted. And then I just remember being super bright and snowy because it was November when I got there, and we were driving through the mountains, and it just had a huge blizzard, and so it was really snowy. But yeah, I got to the transfer meeting, the area where we met up with all the missionaries, and then we drove the 3 hours to our area and got to know my trainer a little bit in the car. And then we put my bags down and started working, and I was like, wait, I want to back. Like, I want to settle in. Like, what are we doing? But we immediately went out and did some finding, taught some lessons, and I found out in the car on my way over that it was a Spanish area, and I was like, okay, cool. I don't speak Spanish at all. I don't understand Spanish, but let's do it. Sounds good. So in the car, she was trying to teach me some simple Spanish phrases so that I could at least participate a little bit, but I just sat there most of the time. And our first night, we actually put someone on date for baptism. Like, my very first day there, I was really overwhelmed because I was like, oh wait, this is real. We do this here. And we taught my trainer taught a great lesson, and the one sentence I knew was from my mission prep class was, yo sé que esto es verdadero y Dios te ama. And it's like, I know this is true and God loves you, and that's all I could say. But I said that in a lesson, and my trainer taught the rest, and we put him on date for baptism, and he ended up getting baptized by the end of that first transfer, and he's one of my best friends. I'm so grateful for that. It's kind of cool because I knew I was in the right place at the right time, even though, like, I wished I had more time in the MTC, and I wished that I had Spanish training and all this stuff, but like, if I hadn't gone English into that area, and on that day I wouldn't have met him. And so I knew I was supposed to be there. So my fourth area was the Eagle Valley Ward, and I love Eagle. It's, I spent 6 months there, and it is beautiful. It's about a half an hour from Vail, so a lot of people in the area work in Vail and commute from Eagle over there because Vail is super expensive. It's that huge ski community, so nobody really wants to live in Vail. But Eagle is kind of the people who work that direction but want kind of a small town lifestyle. And the nearest Walmart is half an hour away. There's one movie theater. It is really, really small. But like, there's not even a McDonald's. It's really small. But I love it. The people are super down to earth. A lot of them are Gypsum natives or Eagle natives that have, you know, had their family there for generations. And so it's got a really small town, homey feel. Everybody knows everybody there. And it's kind of a farming community. There's a lot of families there who were there to herd sheep. And so it's really down to earth. People wear cowboy hats and cowboy boots, and it's a really just a western little town. And there's some beautiful hikes in the area if you're into that on P-Day. And most of the time we go to Glenwood Springs pretty often, which is about a half an hour away for meetings and sometimes on P-Day. But that one has a really pretty hike called Hanging Lake that's super famous. And it's kind of a tourist spot. So most people in Gypsum and Eagle go to Vail or Glenwood for fun, because there's really not much in Gypsum or Eagle. But as far as the work goes, it's an incredible area. Even though it's really small, the people who we found there were super prepared, and we saw a lot of success there. My last area was Lakewood, and that's kind of the southern part of Denver. And so we didn't cover the downtown part of Denver, but all the suburbs outside. And it's a huge area. And most of it, at least the parts that we covered, I was in the north half of it, was apartments and trailer parks. And it was super, super Spanish. Like tons of stores in Spanish. All the signs are in Spanish. Kind of like tons of Mexican food and a lot of the little corn stands and that kind of stuff. You can always get popsicles or like Mexican bread. There's panaderias and neverias everywhere. It was really fun because you got to you always were finding in that area. There's just people everywhere, and it was my biggest area. The culture there is really spectacular. There's murals all over the place, and it was weird kind of to be in civilization again, because half of the mission, if you serve out west, it's really rural. It's, ski towns or farm towns, and then you go back to Denver and metro side, it's just a whole different mission. It's like the way that you do the work is a little bit different on that side of the mountains. The message is the same, but the way you share it is a little different. Yeah, I loved Denver just because there's always something going on, and you get to see a lot more missionaries, which was kind of cool after being so secluded out in the mountains for a long time. So my next area was Montrose, Colorado, and I served there in the early spring and summer, and it was hot. It is a fairly large town down there. It's about an hour from Grand Junction, and the people are just really down to earth. I loved being around them. There's a lot of Spanish people in that area, which was really refreshing, because as a Spanish missionary, you're always looking for Hispanics down there. There's the Black Canyon down there, which is beautiful, and we would go there on P-Days sometimes. It's this huge ravine carved out by the Gunnison River, and it's one of the most peaceful, beautiful places I've been. There's the Black Canyon down there, which is beautiful, and we would go there on P-Days sometimes. It's this huge ravine carved out by the Gunnison River, and it's one of the most peaceful, beautiful places I've been. If we were starting like a special fast or something, we would go up there on P-Day and like study and that kind of stuff, and it was really, you can feel the spirit really strongly there, because it's just kind of a testament that, God made some beautiful things. We covered in that area Montrose proper, and then Olathe and Delta, which are two teeny little towns kind of on the outskirts. And Olathe was like 60% Hispanic, and so we were in Olathe a lot, because that's where a lot of our investigator pool was. And Montrose has a bunch of different wards in the area, so you get to meet a ton of people. Members love missionaries, and we lived with great members in that area, and so we felt really at home. And the work there was great, because you just have a lot of people to teach. You always have new people that you can be finding in new areas to go to. My third area was Rifle, Colorado, and that one's right along Highway 70. Everybody passes through it to get to Denver, and it's also where our transfer meeting stop is. So you'll be in Rifle if you serve in the mission. And I loved Rifle. We covered Silt and Newcastle, and the elders would cover Rifle itself. And Silt and Newcastle are the tiniest little towns you've ever seen. Like, they're really small, especially coming from a big city. I was like, whoa, this is really overwhelming. But the people there are really sweet. They take you in really quickly, and the people are just really open. Nobody locks their door. Everybody's always out and about, just walking around. Kids are always longboarding around Silt. And Newcastle, there's a lot more people kind of up in the mountains, away from town. But there's some really beautiful mountainscapes out there. And everybody goes to church in Rifle as far as like missionary work goes. So you're always trying to get people to drive the half hour to Rifle for church, which is possible. And there are two wards in that area, so Rifle is the first ward, and then Silt and Newcastle are the second ward in that area, and we covered the second ward. And it's a really populous area as far as members go. Like, the wards are pretty big, and they're they're always growing, and a lot of people around there work in the oil fields, and because there's a refinery fairly nearby, and so most of our investigators and then a lot of our members worked in the oil fields out there, or they would commute to Junction a lot of the time, because it's about an hour from Grand Junction. So I started my mission in Steamboat Springs, and it is really high up in the mountains. It's a tiny little ski town, and it is really cold. And I served there from November to March, and so it got down to like -40 at night. And during, you know, there would be some nights we're out tracting in -15 degrees or -20 degrees, and it just was, it was really cold. But I brought a big jacket, a big furry coat, so that was helpful. And Steamboat has a lot of college-age people or just ski bums who go there to escape and to go work for a season and ski all day, and then they come home at night and they party. And so we got a lot of that, kind of the typical Colorado culture over there. And it's a really small town, but at least as a Spanish missionary, there was also a lot of migrant workers who were there to work at the ski resorts and work, you know, in construction and stuff over there. And then, so people are really transient. You know, they'll be there for 4 to 6 months and then go home and come back, and so the town changes a ton, and the ward there changes a lot too. So by the time I went back at the end of my mission to visit, it was a totally different ward, except for a couple staple families who are always there. People there are really healthy, like just everybody mountain bikes and skis and runs and bikes, and doesn't matter what time of year. There's a hot spring there that makes it always smell like sulfur at certain parts, so that's fun. Sulfur's not a really familiar, nice smell to me. And the ward there is kind of small, but they're super welcoming and super warm, because they've met so many different people over the years that you show up and they love you. And it made the transition into the mission a lot easier, because I found families there that really took us in and we felt at home with. And there's a lot of trailers in that area. We worked a ton in the trailer parks, at least just, we were Spanglish missionaries, and so that's where a lot of our investigators lived. And a lot of apartments, because it's a huge college town. So there's not even a college nearby, but it's just college students who go there to party and ski. And sometimes they made the work a little bit more difficult, just because you never knew, like you had to kind of watch out for who was high and who wasn't, because that's Colorado for you. But for the most part, people are just so nice there. They're open, they're down to earth, and yeah, it's hard to find them if they don't want to be found, because they can kind of just disappear. But I loved Steamboat Springs. It was one of my absolute favorite areas. If you're serving metro side, I would say have pepper spray, because you're in some kind of sketchy areas, and you never feel unsafe, and the Spirit will definitely tell you if you shouldn't be in an area. And nothing scary ever happened to me, because like you feel really strongly like you need to leave. We were really watched over, but I would say have it, and bring tights. Lots and lots of fleece lined leggings and tights, because if you're out in the mountains, it's frigid. And so when you're out tracting and it's like -15 degrees and windy, you want leggings. And I cracked and bought ski boots halfway through like my first transfer, and I went and got like really nice ski boots because my feet were freezing. And so I would recommend like have nice boots that you can wear out, but also like wool socks. And like if you want to bring ski boots, bring them. In our mission, we wear makeup, so find makeup that you really like and figure out a routine that works for you. I'd never wore makeup before my mission. I hated it so much, but I learned how to do it kind of on the mission. And so if you learn how to do a really fast, like just really basic makeup routine, that'll help save time in the morning because you don't have very much time to get ready. And if doing your hair is something that is important to you, figure out 5-10 minute things to do with your hair, because you have a half an hour to get ready in the morning. And so figure out something really simple and easy that you can wear all day, because you don't have time to fix your hair and you don't have time to fix your makeup, and you have about 10 minutes to get all that done if you want to shower. So and in our mission, workout videos were allowed, and so pick a couple workout videos that you like. It helps a lot when it's cold, because you can't run when it's 12 degrees outside. It kills you. And especially at the high elevation at the beginning of the mission, if you want to stay in shape, you have to have something you can do in your apartment. So having something like that helps a lot. Because I know that at least for sisters, like, we like to work out in the mornings. Be friendly with the elders, but you don't have to be friends with the elders. Just like a good business casual working relationship is all you really need as a missionary. Members in our mission feed you really well. Like, you are always eating a lot on the mission. So I guess learning how to politely say no to dessert or to seconds is a really important skill. But they're so sweet, and like, they take really good care of us. I said a bad word once at a young women's activity. That was awful. I said I was pregnant because the word for embarrassed is not embarazada. Like, you would think that's the word for pregnant. I remember just not having any idea what I was saying and like just foot in my mouth all the time, but I was trying really hard. I tried to say that an elder was pale, which is güero, and instead I said he was guapo to our ward mission leader. So that was great, and he looked at me like, what kind of missionary did they send us? It was my first day meeting him, and I told him that an elder was super, super hot instead of super, super pale. I know somebody who said that God has a body of eggs and eggs and bacon instead of flesh and bone. Like, there's just all sorts of stuff. I think I called the Pope a duck one time because papa and pata are similar. Yeah, there's a lot of them. So good luck. Just take it in your stride. They happen to everyone. I became a lot better planner and a lot better with time management, because that's just something that comes from having every half hour of your day planned out and not wasting a single second. Like, if you're in the car, you're calling someone, and if you're walking around, you're OIMing, and if you're eating lunch, you're reading your scriptures or memorizing something, or, you know, role-playing with a companion. And so it's made me a lot more productive in what I do. And then I think the biggest thing was just I learned to apply the gospel to everything. That there's nothing that doesn't relate to the gospel, and the Book of Mormon especially. Like, they're just scriptures that they come up all the time. And I think that's a really useful skill, is because before my mission, like, I had a testimony, and the gospel was so important to me, but it wasn't something that I was thinking about 100% of my day. And I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm not saying that I'm constantly memorizing scriptures, but the gospel is an all day, every day kind of activity for me now. And so I think that's the biggest skill I learned, was just to make the gospel who I am and not what I do. I think if I could sum up my mission into one lesson, it would just be that love can do anything. Love can motivate you, it can heal you, it can empower you, it can inspire you, and that's something that I tried to focus on my entire mission, was just loving my Heavenly Father and the people around me and the missionaries that I would serve enough to do whatever it took. Because you're asked to do some really hard things as a missionary. You're asked to sacrifice a lot. Not like things from home or, you know, that stuff is just part of being a missionary. But you're asked to sacrifice your pride. And you're asked to sacrifice to go the extra mile when you're exhausted and you don't feel like doing anything. And you're asked to stop visiting people that you love sometimes, and it's hard. And like, they don't tell you that when you go into the MTC, like, this is really hard, you know? Like, and if they told people what it was actually like when they were heading out, they'd be like, I'm not going. But it's so worth it, just because if you can learn to feel that love for the people that you serve, it's all worth it. There's no sacrifice too big. There's nothing that you wouldn't do for them. And then the reward you get when you actually see somebody that you adore to accepting the gospel, it's the most beautiful feeling in the world. And it's the best thing I've ever felt before, is seeing somebody that you've worked for and prayed for and fasted for and like just done everything for. Finally, like, you see that glow on their face when they figure out that it's true and that it's real and that they feel the blessings in their own life. It's it's the most rewarding thing I've ever seen. So if you ever are having a bad day, or you don't feel like being there, or whatever it is, like, if you focus on loving the people that are around you, then you forget about yourself. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. I stepped in a snowdrift once by accident in -10 degrees at night, and it was just a bad day. But I laugh about it now, but at the time I was really mad. At least in Steamboat, our rule was if it's below -40, don't go out. If it's between -40 and -20, only go to set appointments. And if it's above -20, go as normal. Just put a scarf around your face so you don't get frostbite on your face. And it got really hot in the summer too. Like, you're sweating all the time. But just layers. It's manageable. Some of the hardest things I went through as a missionary was just questioning. Like, it's, you face a lot of people who don't believe what you believe in. That's like the whole point. And mostly just through personal study, and also just feeling inadequate. And I think that's something that sister missionaries especially feel really strongly. Just feeling like you're not doing enough, or feeling like you're not doing the right thing, or you're not in the right place, or whatever it is. It's a lie. It's a trick from Satan that he tries to use to keep you from doing what you're supposed to do. And so I think that the hardest things, like, yeah, you face rude people and you eat gross foods, but I think the hardest part was just, it's the battle you fight in your head. And then if you can, I guess, focus on the atonement, it's okay. Study, preach my gospel. Study it, memorize it, like, make it personal, find your favorite parts, and read the Book of Mormon cover to cover before you go, because that's the one thing that people will always question you on and always try to shake you on, and it's also the most important tool that you have. If you can love and know and use the Book of Mormon as a missionary, then you're going to be a successful missionary. It's the best tool you have. It's the best thing we have going for us, regardless of all the pamphlets and videos and whatever. Like, if you can get somebody to honestly read the Book of Mormon, that's the best tool you have. And so I'd say study the Book of Mormon and know your preach my gospel, and you'll be ready. I feel like I am in no place to give advice to RMs, but it's okay. It gets better. Because I was really sad for my first 2 months home, because I just wanted to go back. I was like, what am I doing here? But like, when you serve in the best mission on the earth, then it's really hard to come back. But I'd say make time for scripture study, because I found that that's the thing that really keeps me going through my week. And something that helped me a ton was I tried to go to the temple every week. And in the temple is where you really feel like a missionary again, and you feel like you have a purpose, and you feel almost close to that spirit that you felt as a missionary, because it's so strong. And then you come home and you still have the spirit because you're living your covenants and all that, but it's different. You don't need as much constant inspiration, because it's just for you now, not 100 people. And so going to the temple, the spirit's strong enough that it keeps you going. And just do the stuff you're supposed to do. A lot of the time it's easy to question and be like, do I really need to do this? Yes. Yes, you do. Just do it. We showed up at someone's house, and they said that they'd been praying for an entire day straight for an answer to a question, and the moment we walked over their doorstep, they got this feeling from head to toe, like they're the people you need to talk to. And they had stomach problems the entire day before. Their stomach was in a ton of pain, and as soon as we mentioned baptism, it went away, and she knew that it was what she needed to do. And so, like, the spirit is really powerful, and like, you will have so many experiences where you show up at someone's house and they're prepared and they've been waiting for you, and it's a matter of having the faith to know that that's true, and then having enough of the spirit to be in the right place at the right time. So that was one of our most spirituals when we showed up there. But I think at least one of the most powerful lessons that I can remember was with that same family, but we were teaching her mother. And at one point, she was asking about the plan of salvation, how she could know if it was true, and she's like, I don't know how I feel about the Book of Mormon, and I just got the really strong prompting, like, yeah, you do. Yes, you do. And I'm not usually a crier in lessons, but like, I testified with everything that I had of that book and how much it's blessed my family and my life, and I just started crying. But I just remember the Spirit being really strong in that moment, and that she, regardless of what happened after, like she didn't end up getting baptized or anything, but in that moment, like I could see in her face that she knew that what I was saying was right, that, you know, that came from God, because there's nothing in the world that feels like a confirmation of the Spirit. It's such a singular feeling, and so even though things didn't exactly pan out the way that I would have wanted them to, I knew that I had done what I was supposed to do there, just because the Spirit was so strong during that lesson. So one of the little miracles I saw at the beginning of my mission that really taught me that mission miracles are totally possible and they happen all the time was with Paco, one of our investigators, that one I mentioned earlier, who we put him on date my first day in the mission. And he came from a Jehovah's Witness family and was, he has so much faith. It's incredible. And he's such a strong member now. And he's still, you know, he went to the temple and he's a rock star. But the day of his baptismal interview, my president was coming out to do the interview, and it was 4 hours away, and he was driving through the snow, and Paco had about a half-hour window that he could do his interview before that Saturday when he was getting baptized. And it had been a really long process. Like, he had fallen off date, and then that Monday before his baptism, he was like, wait, I'm still getting baptized, right? And we were like, yes, we'll make it happen if you want to. Like, we're your girls. So it's the Thursday before his baptism, and he needs to get interviewed, and President is driving 4 hours, and Paco gets called into work, and he's like, is he going to come by the time I have to go to work? And President was running a half hour late because of the snow, and we thought that President was going to drive 8 hours and not be able to do the interview, and we felt so bad. And so we're sitting in our car waiting for him to show up, and we were just panicked, and we said this fervent prayer, like, Heavenly Father, we've done everything that we can, and at this point it's just weather. And we asked for a miracle that Paco would be stalled at work somehow, that he'd be able to do his interview. And then we finished our prayer, and we just kind of sat in the car, and within 60 seconds he texted us and said, hey, something changed in my schedule at work. Is he still coming? I have an extra half an hour. And it was like this, just, my eyes got about this big, and I said, like, whoa, like, God answered a prayer immediately and exactly what we asked for. And he had his interview, passed with flying colors, and got baptized, and now he's this incredible member in Mexico. And it was just a testament to me that, like, miracles happen. And even though it was so small, it changed his entire life, so that Saturday he could have what he wanted and that he could progress. And then, like, if he hadn't been able to do it that Saturday, like, his wife at the time showed up on the day of his baptism and was able to see him get baptized, and she got baptized 3 weeks later. So, like, had his interview not happened, she might not have had that experience either. And so, like, it was so inspired, because God had a huge plan that we could not see at the time, and we just asked for the right thing because he told us what to ask for. In Montrose, I had been out for like 6 months, and I was just on fire. Like, I was just ready to do whatever it took. And I was with this companion, and we were working really hard on talking to everybody we saw. And so at one point we were at a red light, and there was this kid with his window open next to us. And so I was like, give him a card. And my companion leans half her body out the window to give this card to this kid who was next to us. And the light started, like, it turned green when we were going. And so I was like, no, no, no. And we like raced into the next light and stopped so that we could give him our card. And then we drove off, and we didn't really say anything else. But later, and we never saw anything come of it because he disappeared. But later, after I left the area, one of my that companion, she told me that they ran into this kid sitting on the side of the road, and he said, hey, I know you. And she said, how? I don't know you. And he said, you leaned out of your car to give me your card, but I was with my girlfriend, and she took it and chucked it out the window because she didn't want me talking to girls. And then they ended up teaching him because, like, that, it made such an impression that she really wanted him to have this business card, or like little Mormon.org card. that he was impressed, and he was like, yeah, let me hear what you got to say. And they ended up teaching him. And so there's something to be said for going the extra mile and talking to everybody that you see. And I saw so many miracles from that just being really bold and talking to everybody, regardless of where you are or how late you are or whatever it is, like it leads to miracles. You find the longer you're on your mission that the Lord sends you to humble people. And at least in Eagle, my last area, it seemed like everybody that we would talk to was going through something ridiculously hard. And I found that it was a trend that way, and it made me really sad, because I was like, why are all these people so upset? Like, what's wrong with this town that everyone is having these issues? But I found that it's not that everybody was having a terrible time. It was that God was sending us to the people who needed the gospel at that time in their life. Without being too personal, I just saw a lot of people who you just show up at the exact right time. A lot of members in that area showed us that they had been converted that way, that missionaries showed up right as they had, fallen to their knees and were screaming at heaven, and missionaries knock on the door. And I just remember seeing that so many times that, maybe they weren't praying at that second, but they had prayed us to their doorstep. And I think it's just the most fulfilling thing to know that you were guided there. And so inspired planning is one of my favorite things, because even though sometimes you have a whole day to fill and you don't know what you're going to do with the day, if you ask Heavenly Father, there's always somewhere He needs you to be. And as you listen throughout the day, I think you always end up in the right place. He can guide you to certain areas and certain people because they need you, and not necessarily you, but they need the gospel, and you're the conduit at that time. And so I think just constantly be listening for where you need to be, and then you'll always be in the right place. Congratulations. I am so excited for you, and I am really jealous that you get to go back. You're going to the best mission in the entire world. I love that place, and the Rocky Mountains are sacred ground to me. They are so special and so dear to my heart, just because of the people that I met there and the experiences that I had there and the things that I learned. And you are about to have the best 1.5 or 2 years of your life. My mission changed my entire life. It completely altered the course that my life was going on, and it taught me more than I think I've learned my entire life in just this 18 months about the gospel, about who I am, and about what God can do in my life and in other people's lives. And the calling that you're going to have is sacred. You have so much power when you put on that black tag, and it's never to be underestimated. As you magnify your calling, as you do your best, you can literally call down the powers of heaven, and you can make things happen that need to happen. And know right now that at this very moment, God is preparing people in areas to meet you. That they're going to be people you connect with that only you were meant to meet. And they will be so grateful that they met you, and you will be so much more grateful that you met them. I learned so much more from the people that I taught than they ever learned from me. And you'll find that as you meet those people that you were always supposed to meet them. And whether that meant you knew them before or you were just supposed to meet them here, it's such an incredible experience to be able to give your all to them. And that's my advice to you, is be ready to put it all on the line. Leave it all at home and go into the mission field ready to do whatever it takes to be the missionary your mom thinks you are and Heavenly Father needs you to be. And as you do that, your mission will be the most important and the most rewarding and the most beautiful experience that you've had yet. Because I know it was for me. I love our mission. And I don't know if you'll have the Murdochs, but the Murdochs are the best. And so if you get President and Sister Murdoch, be really excited. Love your mission. Because it's the best decision that you could make. And that call is inspired. So get ready. It's the best.